What worked for the Knicks in game two to give them a 2-0 lead over the Boston Celtics heading back to Madison Square Garden? We're getting into that right now on Locked On Knicks. Plus, Gavin makes another appearance on terrestrial radio, and we're going to bring that to you for the back half of this show right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, the globe-trotting play-by-play man himself right now. Different hotel room every week, going all over the country, covering games, and also the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And we are excited to get into some more game two talk today. We're going to talk through some more of our first talk together about the game two impressions before we throw it to Gavin going on the Manchild show with Boy Green. From Syracuse's 1260 The Score, a little terrestrial radio mixed in with your regular podcast listening. So we're going to throw that in. Better quality than AM radio, I've been told, on our podcast feed. So good stuff there. But first, I want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. Whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in sights and sounds on YouTube, we appreciate you making this part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode, because we got plenty of them coming out during the playoffs here. It's been at least 5 a week, sometimes 6 or 7 a week. So definitely make sure you never miss an episode. But Gavin, this is the first time we've gotten to talk. I certainly talked plenty last night. I did a first segment where I was kind of just talking about the magic of what's happening for the Knicks right now. Maybe we know now that we can thank the new Pope or something because he went to Villanova. I don't know. But and then gave a bunch of thoughts on the game. So coming out of game two, having watched it now, I mean, what were your thoughts and what were your takeaways that we now see the Knicks up 2-0 going home with 2 home games? And honestly, I don't want to say like a high chance, but certainly a chance to potentially sweep the defending champions in this series right now.
Yeah, so I'll throw some of my headlines your way. Let me know if there's any of them that you want to explore a little bit deeper in this opening segment. This is a point that I'll go on to make later in the episode, so I apologize for, even though we're recording this after, for preemptively repeating myself. But I think, and we talked about this, like literally, I think in the pod I did with XJ right after the Cat trade. The point of this roster, especially in year one, was not that it was better than the Boston Celtics, and I still don't think it is. I don't know if the Knicks are a better team. I don't think they are, based on the much larger sample size we've seen. What I will say, the point of it was that with variance, if the Celtics, who are the variance kings, even though they have more talent maybe than any other team in the league, if the variance swings your way, if Boston goes cold for a week, you have a team that's capable of taking advantage of that. And to me, that is my biggest takeaway through 2 games, that like I did not think the Knicks were on a level that could take advantage of that. Did I predict Boston would shoot this poorly? No, probably not. But the Knicks have induced a lot of that, and they've actually been good enough to leverage it and win these games. Because last night, I mean, through a half, like I'm sure everyone was kind of feeling the same thing. I heard our guy Jonathan Macri talking about the same feeling over on Knicks Film School. They're missing a million shots, and it's going to be wasted because the Knicks are just having an equally terrible game. Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson are something like 4 for 22 from the field, and they're not going to take advantage of the fact that like the greatest shooting team, at least in terms of volume of threes in NBA history, cannot make a shot right now, and they figured out a way to win it anyways. So I think that's exciting that we're getting some proof of concept there. My other big thing is Brunson and Cat are holding up well enough defensively. Like Cat, there are certainly bad moments, like especially in the third quarter where he started playing drop. It didn't look as good, but on switches, like I tracked a number of times. Like he goes against Jason Tatum for the second straight game and forces a couple of jumpers. Jalen Brunson late in the game on Jalen Brown, who just kind of tries to bait a foul on him. Like over and over again, Tatum and Brown like at times they're winning, like Drew Holiday torched Brunson, but they're settling. And like if those two are not weak points, like the Knicks can switch all day against this team. Like maybe foul trouble will be an issue again, but that's really big. I had a few more, but I'll stop myself there. I think those are some of the things I was locked in.
Yeah, I mean, I was equally confused by the Knicks going back to drop in the third quarter. It seemed like, I don't know, that felt like the devil on Tibbs's shoulder for a moment. You know what I mean? Like that he's had the angel and the devil on his shoulders in this series, I guess. Like, and the angel's been winning out for the most part, just being like, try new things, do good stuff, do right by your players, make them happy, like put them in situations to be successful. And then the devil on his shoulder was like, but you love drop coverage. And it's just, I don't understand why they decided to go to it when that was, I mean, we had how many times did they freaking face Boston in the regular season? 4 times.
4 times, yeah.
You know, it had four games of proof that just doesn't work against this team, and that's not how you're going to beat them. But the switching has been great. I mean, I like Towns and even Brunson to a degree. I think, you know, I think that Brunson's been holding up fairly well on those switches, and he's not going to like win you matchups necessarily, but if he just kind of holds his own, like I think the matchup data, which I know is flawed, has had like guys shooting roughly 50% against him or something like that, but way worse against everybody else on the Knicks right now. So if it comes down to it and they're able to take advantage of getting a switch on to Brunson once or twice, it's like fine, like but he's also forced some pretty big defensive stops. Like he's had some pokeaways. He's stonewalled some guys a couple times. Like it's not like they're scoring at will on him. So
yeah,
I think the strategy, like the switching, that's kind of been the main thing. And it's it's a great like schematic thing, but it's also great from the sense of Tibbs trusting his guys fully for once, which I think is always kind of an issue, where it seems like sometimes he's like trying so hard to
hide them.
Like counterpunch the other team or protect his guys that are like the not as great defenders or whatever, that he doesn't kind of just let them cook and like see what they can do. And I think that's been the biggest thing in this series, is trusting Brunson and Cat to hold their own when they have to. And like Brunson has just kind of done good across the board. Cat, especially, I think like really it kind of found his way late in game 1 and then had that transfer over to game 2 and wasn't really any time other than the time when they went back to drop for a minute where I was watching and being like, he's like a huge negative right now, which is not always the case with him. So I think it's just been a lot of trusting his guys and bringing something good to the table, schematically, that's really paying off big for them right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Few other headlines for me, and I might do which would be crazy because it pushes to 7 or 8 this week, but I might do one more deeper dive on this game. But I think we saw late third quarter, early fourth quarter, playing with pace, getting on transition, just enormous for this team. And that is true in the half court and in the full court. Like I think when we see the offense really bogged down, and it's a little chicken or the egg, because some of it is what the defense is doing, obviously, but so often in that Pistons series, like the Knicks were getting like 5, 6, 7 seconds left in the shot clock. And honestly, like against the Pacers last year, against the Sixers, like it was an issue last postseason. It's been an issue for long stretches of games against the Boston Celtics. And some of that you have to credit the Celtics defense. I think on that end of the floor, they played really quite well. Certainly pressured the Knicks into some turnovers, but where you see this game turn around is where Mikal Bridges, like I think just almost off confidence, like when he really got going, it was because he brought some juice in the backcourt and he just started attacking and going downhill. And like, I think sometimes like the Knicks run an initial action, it doesn't work. And it's almost like they have to get their energy back up. And in the fourth quarter, like, because they knew if we don't score every time and we don't score every time fast, like there's just literally not enough time left in this basketball game for us to overcome this deficit. And so they start bringing that pace. It obviously helps when the Celtics are missing shots. It helps when the Celtics have live ball turnovers. But like even the layup that Brunson had with whatever, like the second to last basket, like that didn't have to be transition. Like there are other times this season where Brunson would have pulled that out and reset, and he said, no, that's Al Horford. Like I'm going right by him. He's 50 years old. And he was able to go and do that. So I thought that was huge. This is one I won't harp on because we're going to touch on it again in the radio hit. But I am a believer that Jason Tatum in a vacuum, because of his defense, because of his rebounding, because of his size, probably a better basketball player than Jalen Brunson. In the last 4 minutes of a game, I just think Brunson's combination of skill, his understanding of his skill, and his understanding of how and when to deploy everything he knows, like his situational awareness, is just unholy. I mean, like that 1 foot, I haven't even heard a lot of people talk about the shot just because there's so much else, but the 1 foot Dirk fade on Holiday, like that's probably the best guard defender in the NBA. And Brunson is just like getting to his spot, knows exactly what he's supposed to do, while Jason Tatum is like unsure of himself. He gets that dunk because Joe Mazzulla calls a play, and then the Knicks defend it differently the next time, and he gets completely tripped up. And like just that understanding of who he is just a separator for Jalen Brunson. And he's about as reliable of a clutch performer as, like, not on the Knicks, like just in general, I've seen in my NBA life. More clutch points. The stat was he has twice as many fourth quarter points as any other guy in the playoffs at this point, which is, it's just crazy. He's 86, so a little less than half. Murray is 46. That's ridiculous. My last one was Mitchell Robinson on both ends of the floor, but Alex and I were running low on time, so maybe I can save that for a future episode.
Yeah, I mean, we could touch on Mitch real quick.
Yeah.
Screw it, whatever. The radio hit's not that long.
Just a second. But first, we want to tell you guys about our friends over at DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swish, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order. $20 or more, use the code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. Ever look at your delivery fees and think, there's got to be a better way? With Dash Pass, you get $0 delivery fees and exclusive perks like this one. How much would you save over the course of the season? So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day with a $20 ordering code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply.
So we could go a little longer. I mean, I'm with you on Brunson. Obviously, we've said it a million times, but I mean, this guy just he has a certain level of poise to him, and there's something's been being proven to me in these playoffs that no matter what type of game he has for the first 40 minutes or whatever of any given game, you know that when it comes down to that stretch time in the fourth quarter, you can count on him to make something happen. I mean, he's just shown it again and again. Like, he's had more bad games this playoffs than he did last year, I think. And, it's like, or for most of the game. And then, whether it was the go home, 3-pointer against Detroit, whether it's all the, I mean, he scored the last 6 points for the Knicks in last night's game to ultimately seal it, and all of them in completely different ways. I mean, just the shots that he's making, the things he does, really special stuff. And Mitch has been equally as special. I think that he said it himself, that he's flattered that they're making such an effort to try to get him off the court, that they're so aggressively fouling him. But I think his defense, in this more switch heavy scheme, it's like bringing me back to old Mitch, like to rookie, sophomore, junior year Mitch, of just like rookie contract Mitch, of like, wow, this guy is so athletic. He's so good at keeping someone in front of him. I've watched maybe even more so than any other possession this postseason so far, including the Brunson game winner. I've watched that final possession from game 2 so many times today, and I'm just blown away every time that Mitch has a guy in Jason Tatum. Like, that's a matchup they were probably looking for, as foolish as that may be. They were probably like, get the center on Tatum. That's your best shot out of, when they've got that defensive death lineup out there. They're probably thinking, well, if Tatum's going to get a shot off against anybody, better to have it be Mitch than to try to do it against Mikal, OG, Deuce even, because of how quick his hands are, or Josh Hart because of the strength. So it's like, oh, let's try it on Mitch. And Mitch just like perfectly keeps himself in front of him, funnels him to exactly where he needs to go, like literally like into the hands of OG Anunoby and then Mikal Bridges, who helps over from Brown. It's just what he's doing in these playoffs, like at every level, it makes me really happy. Like to have, I mean, you and I have been here covering literally his entire career.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a special moment to see him now finally. No injuries prior to the postseason, no getting intentionally injured by Joel Embiid last year, no nothing. Like he's finally able to get out there, play his best, and like kudos to the Knicks and probably the medical staff who have been phenomenal this year, obviously with how good things have gone for the Knicks. But credit to them for identifying how to keep Mitch healthy and making sure he could be this version in the playoffs, because he's been the difference maker for them in both. I would say he's had his moments in both rounds, but especially this series, he's the difference maker right now.
Yeah, look, I've been wrong about a good amount this playoffs. I certainly owe Tom Thibodeau an apology. I maybe owe the Knicks, let's see if they finish it off, but I might owe the Knicks in general an apology for doubting them. The one thing I will take a victory lap on is Mitchell Robinson. There was so much talk that he couldn't play against the Celtics. He couldn't stay on the floor against the stretch five. It's not a good matchup for him. BS. I'm calling BS on that. He's arguably, I've seen people say he's been their best player through 2 games, which I don't agree with, but he's in that conversation. He's been one of their 3 or 4 best players. I know this, they're probably down 0-2 without him. I mean, the way he changed the rebounding battle in game 1, the and one he had on KP, they were down by 16 at that point. That kind of kick-started that 21-2 stretch. The switch defense, to your point, like just a game changer, that optionality. The 2-man group with him and Cat. Now, let me see if I have the numbers in front of me. It's from Max at Max Wildstein on Twitter. In 15 minutes, they've outscored the Celtics 32-11, 128 offensive rating, 40.7 defensive rating. That's a plus 87.3 net. That lineup is finally getting some substantial time with Jalen Brunson. Every time Mitch is on the floor, it helps Mikal Bridges. Like he just sets much better screens than Towns does, and it gives like when Bridges like gets going on his horse, it like watch out for it. It's typically when Mitch is on the floor with him. So I think he's had a lot to do with his success. Gets his hands on 1 million rebounds, catches about half of them, but that's enough. He's a higher offensive rebounding rate than anyone else in the playoffs, including Steven Adams. He's been exceptional. And to your point, he is probably the Nick I am the most personally fond of and rooting for the hardest. So it is incredibly cool to see. Hopefully we see more of it in game 3 at MSG. But for now, we throw it to the radio side as I join the Manchild show with Boy Green. On 1260 The Score. We'll get into that in.
All right, little go New York, go New York, go to get you kicked off with this next guest. He's one of our Knicks insiders from the Locked On Knicks podcast. Let's welcome him back, Gavin Shaw. Gavin, let's talk Knicks. 2 wins on the road. You got a happy Knicks fan in this room right now. How you feeling?
You got one on the phone too. Woo. I feel like a lot more optimistic conversation than we had the last 2 times.
Yeah, I'm hoping Tom Thibodeau heard some of the stuff that you were saying about him on the show, and he's motivated. This is fantastic. Let's talk about it a little bit.
I had to light a fire here.
And you did. All right, let's talk about it. What has happened so far in this series, in your mind, that has kept the Knicks in these games and has allowed them to execute down the stretch, and they have been terrific, of course, led by Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, a lot of different things. I mean, I think the most obvious point is that Boston has shot terribly from 3. I've set a record in game 1 for missed threes. In game 2, 25%. But I think, and maybe an under-discussed part of that, is that the Knicks are playing a big role in that. I mean, in game 1, Boston took more contested threes than they took all year. Jason Tatum, I think the stat on him is shooting something like 38% less threes. He's taking 37% fewer catch-and-shoot threes in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. The Knicks are generally forcing Boston into tough shots, and Boston has obliged to some extent by taking those tough shots. They've missed a lot of those tough shots. Even the threes they get that are good looks haven't largely been in rhythm. And then you just look to the defensive end of the floor. The whole premise of acquiring Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby was to compete with the Boston Celtics and to give you the flexibility defensively, to give you 2 wings that could insulate Brunson and Cat on that end of the floor. And I thought Mikal, until the fourth quarter at least, maybe wasn't quite as good in Game 2 as he was in Game 1. I think OG has played at a Defensive Player of the Year level through both these games. But the point is those two, and Josh Hart to maybe even a slightly lesser extent, have just been fantastic. And then I think the biggest factor is down the stretches of these games, the Knicks have a certain level of confidence and competence that the Celtics are just completely lacking. I mean, that they became, I think, the first team in NBA history to blow back-to-back 20-point leads in a playoff run. The stat might even be the first ever to blow two 20-point leads in a playoff run. Just having Jalen Brunson, I think, makes an incredible amount of difference, where the Knicks understand the assignment late in these games, but it hasn't only been Brunson. I mean, in the fourth quarter against Boston yesterday, Mikal Bridges scoring 14 points to get them going, and then you just get it to a point where Brunson can take you home. And you look at him compared to Jason Tatum, and I would still probably argue Jason Tatum is an overall better player. I think it's impossible to argue Jason Tatum is the guy you'd rather have in the final 4 minutes of games. Brunson is just a little bit more skilled, and I think a little bit more confident in how to deploy those skills. While Tatum, I mean, had that great dunk, obviously, but just does not look like he knows what he wants to do late in these games, while Brunson has every single step mapped out. And of course, the biggest thing is that he's actually making these shots, and that's been enough for the Knicks to separate at the end of these games and ultimately win two miracles.
And Gavin, what about the fact that in both of these games, the Celtics had the final shot and didn't get a shot off? What does that say about this series and their execution? Very interesting little note from last night. They could have called timeout, elected not to do it, and the play that they had previously run, they tried to rerun it, and the Knicks picked it up this time. Talk about the Celtics' strategy here on final shots.
We'll be right back in, but first we wanted to let you know about our friends over at Amazon Fire TV. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? That was crazy news for me. You could turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive in hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. And I love that for such a small device, you get the latest technology for elevated playing with Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode. Advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. That's great. I mean, obviously doing podcasting, you need pretty good Wi-Fi. So I let that translate over to when I'm playing games too. And the Fire TV Stick 4K lets you just have all those benefits of having faster Wi-Fi. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen.
Yeah, so I think we could go by game. Game 1, risky foul by Karl-Anthony Towns, but ultimately an ingenious one with 4 seconds left, and that's an area for he is a very smart basketball player at times for a guy who does a lot of incredibly stupid stuff on the court. But that was great recognition, great basketball IQ. Take that foul with 3 seconds left. You're really knowing you have a foul to take, and even if you didn't, you send Boston to the line up by 3. And then it forces Boston to run like a really tricky situation, right? Trying to generate an open 3 out of a sideline out of bounds. And Mikal Bridges, you could say this for both games, like, again, just a brilliant defensive IQ. And maybe my favorite thing I've seen from Bridges in this series, like he all season long, certainly by me, has been criticized for his lack of aggressiveness. The guy had about a 6-week stretch where he only took like 5 total free throws or something like that. It was around that number, right? Like he's been averse to contact at times on both ends of the floor. But in these final moments, like his fearlessness, right? He's not afraid of committing a foul. He's not afraid of making a mistake. He just goes after the basketball. We saw it first with Jalen Brown, who's ripped to the gills, and Mikal was just able to strip that ball out of his hand, right? More will, more aggressiveness, more desire to win. But he got there because he anticipated where the ball was going. He had the length, he had the foot speed to get to that spot and tie up Brown. And it was just a genius play. And then the play against Jason Tatum, first Mitchell Robinson, I think deserves a whole lot of credit for both these games, but particularly Game 2. I mean, he made the difference with that double big lineup down the stretch of the fourth quarter. Love that Tom Thibodeau stuck with that. He slides his seat with Jason Tatum. He holds up initially. An underrated part of that play that I'm not sure most people notice, OG Anunoby grabs the jersey of Al Horford, right? Because he knows he needs to be in that spot to help Mitch with Tatum, because if not, Tatum's just going to turn the corner. And recognizing, I think, that the officials were probably not going to notice that, even if they did, probably not going to make that call in that situation. He literally grabs Horford's jersey, drags him over into the play so he can illegally, but it worked out for him, guard two guys at once. That forces Tatum to stunt towards the baseline. And again, just like a courageous play from Mikal Bridges to get over there and get a hand on that ball, because you're leaving Jalen Brown, right? If you don't get a hand on that ball and Tatum's able to make that pass, it's an easy shot for Brown. And to your point on Boston not calling timeout, I think the logic there was to make sure Jalen Brunson was still in the game, because the game before, the Knicks were able to make substitutions, get their five best defenders on the floor. The issue with that, and to your point where you're right on that being bad execution by Boston, if the whole point of not calling timeout is to keep Jalen Brunson on the floor, you better be going at Jalen Brunson. Heck, even have Drew Holiday, who early in this game was just bullying Brunson to the rim, put the ball in his hands. But because they default to Tatum, and Tatum, I mean, again, that dunk aside, like, has just not been confident and not executing in those moments, or really all series, like it backfired for Boston. So but it wouldn't have happened if the Knicks did not play fantastic defense and force the issue.
Yeah, and in all due respect, on that dunk, I mean, Al Horford, literally, I mean, you that is the definition of a moving screen. I mean, he grabbed him and took 3 steps to plow him out of the lane. Now, in the end, it doesn't end up being a difference, thank God, but that was a critical basket for the referees to turn their back and look another way. I was PO'd, but I wasn't PO'd when it ended because we won the game, but I was like, what was that? That is an egregious moving screen.
It's
egregious.
been all playoffs in OG, and I know people... OG on defense is treated how Shaq was treated on offense, where because he's big, strong, and can move his feet, and you don't really
let him hammer him
if you don't foul him. Yeah, people, I mean, the Pistons, it was all, they were moving him, and I'm sure the Knicks get away with similar stuff, and we just don't notice it because we're watching through orange and blue glasses, but man, he's been hacked away.
He's the Cam Newton of basketball is what he is. Sure. Cam Newton of basketball. All right, go ahead, Boy Green.
Yeah, so Gavin, the Knicks are up 2-0, but the two nuggets that I pull out is obviously the Celtics had 20-plus point leads in both. And in totality, the Knicks have held the lead 12 minutes of total game time in the two games. So what does that mean? Do the Knicks walk away and go, oh, man, the Celtics for all the other minutes of the game were winning and we found it out? Just imagine if we could flip the switch. Is that the mentality? Or is there, like, how do you perceive that part of the exam? Because I'm sure that's what the Celtics are looking at as they're trying to explain how they haven't won these games and how they're getting ready for the road trip.
Well, maybe the question is, are they feeling lucky or are they feeling confident?
Basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think both are true, honestly. Like, I think the Knicks can play a lot better. They've said as much after these games. Certainly, like, the number one area, the most obvious area to clean up is defensive rebounding. Boston has killed them on the offensive glass. And even in the fourth quarter, like, the threes that Boston made were largely off of offensive rebounds and in scramble situations. So the Knicks can certainly clean up their defensive rebounding. The Knicks can shoot the basketball far better. We saw Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson combine, I think a 3 for 21 starts in this game, maybe 4 for 22. Yeah. Like, they were terrible shooting the ball to start this game. OG Anunoby, after a great offensive game in game 1, he was 2 for 9. He only had 5 points in this one, right? Like they have not shot the ball particularly well, and that is an area they can certainly get better. Boston is going to have a game where all these threes go down. It might be game 3, and the Knicks might come out, and the Knicks might even play like from minute 1 to minute 48. They might play a better overall basketball game, and Boston might beat them by 25 because that's sort of the Celtic style where it is this fascinating thing where Boston is arguably the most talented team in the league, and yet their style of play is to create an immense amount of variance with how many threes they take. And they're betting that variance isn't so random because they have a bunch of great three-point shooters, and by and large that's worked out, and they won a title off of that last year, and they won 61 games this year doing that. The issue for Boston is they don't stop leaning into the variance late in games. And my friends over at the Hot Hand Theory podcast, everyone should check them out, made this point. But like late down the stretch of game 1 and late down the stretch of game 2, when they have the lead, that is the time to be attacking the lane and getting the free throw line, because when you're up by 20, you don't want to play with variance. You just want to take, like, you'd rather shoot a again, taking this point from them, you'd rather shoot a 50% 2 than a 35% 3, even if in a vacuum a 35% 3 is a more valuable shot than a 50% 2, because you don't want to take the risk. So I do think Boston has to change their approach a little bit down the stretches of these games if they're up. But even if Boston continues to play the same way, some of those shots are inevitably going to start to go down. I think they had a lot of success early in this game, driving at the Knicks, driving at Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, just out-muscling them, just being too big, offensive rebounding. So I do think there are a lot of avenues for Boston to get back in this series. We saw in the regular season, Boston is more than capable of beating the Knicks 4 games in a row, and maybe even beating them soundly 4 games in a row. But I think the whole premise of this team that the Knicks put together was not that they were better than Boston. It was that if Boston shot poorly, they had a roster that could take advantage of it. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing play out right now.
Gavin Shaw, Locked On Knicks podcast, talking with us right now, all things Knicks. You know, my partner's a diehard Celtics fan. I'm a diehard Knicks fan, so you're talking to both sides of it here. I think you kind of get that in our conversations and our questions.
Sure.
What was fascinating is he asked me a question, I asked him a question today earlier, all right? The question he asked me when I walked in is, how were you feeling when they were down 20? And my answer was, actually, I was feeling okay. Like, because of what happened in Game 1 and because of the way I saw the team playing, particularly their effort on the defensive end, I still felt like the Knicks were in the game, and if they could just get a little closer, hang around, that they could do something, and that's exactly what ended up happening. Conversely, I had asked him about how he's feeling about the Celtics down the stretch of games, all right? And he was saying they needed to keep the Knicks at arm's length, just what you were saying. Once they got up 20, cool it with the threes, and let's just keep them at arm's length. We make a few more twos here, they just won't have enough time to catch us. But they just keep chucking. Right. Yeah. The Knicks keep getting those long rebounds. Some of them turn into fast breaks, and bang, 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 you put points on the board very quickly. So give me your thoughts on both of those things and where you stand on both.
Yeah, so I think I felt similar to you from the Knicks' perspective. Just kind of a sense of the biggest thing there was that the Knicks took Game 1, right? And that was like given if you told Knicks fans you were going to be down by 20, like midway or late in the third quarter of both Game 1 and 2, and you said you'll walk away with one win, every Knicks fan is taking that with a smile, right? Like you're not questioning that. You're saying that is fantastic. How do we pull out one of those games? That is incredible. I think the frustration there, if you're a Knicks fan, was that Boston was also shooting terribly. They still couldn't make a three for this team that set a record for made threes in the NBA this year. Is like a historically great shooting bunch. And you're saying, man, this was maybe a missed opportunity to take Game 2, and an understanding, right, that like against the Celtics, like if they have an off shooting night, like it is an automatic must win because Boston is just that good on both ends of the floor. So I think both those elements were at play. But I am curious, just to Boy Green's point, like just where's the psychology of the Boston Celtics at this point? Like you built those 20-point leads, like they're going to have to prove it to themselves in some ways. Like I think they believe they are better than the Knicks, but there has to be some fear there that if like any of these games are close down the stretch, like can we actually pull it off? Because the Knicks made every play, right? It was a 21-2 run. There was just a lid on the basket for the Boston Celtics. And I go back to Mikal Bridges, like the only time all season he looked like that offensively. Like there were other quite good games, but in terms of a game that felt like monumental with stakes, I go back to that Christmas Day game against the Spurs where he's confidently going at Drew Holiday, one of the strongest players in the NBA, and he's going downhill and beating him for a reverse layup. He's going right at him, bouncing off him, and hitting a fadeaway jumper. And like that level of aggression and focus and just the way this Knicks team, like just a mental toughness that I think anyone who was a Knicks fan thought was missing. And we talked all season long about that elusive quality that last year's team had and the 2023 team had and the 2020 team had to some extent, like that just innate mental toughness that just seemed to be missing. And I think that's where people were so frustrated with this Knicks team. It's that they were clearly more talented, but that special quality was gone. And it was such a punch in the gut to know, like, that's what made people love the team. And I think in these two games, like, they've completely reversed almost 90 games of data that we had that just wasn't the Knicks.
Gavin, one last one I wanted to ask you, just kind of going out here, and that's this. Okay, it's 2-0 Knicks. Do you believe? Can the Knicks now win this series, or do you still think the Boston Celtics will come back and win?
Whew, that is a tough question for me because my inclination as someone who identifies as a Knicks fan is I don't know. Are you guys familiar with the concept of the reverse jinx? Like I feel sick to my stomach with the idea of picking the Knicks. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be a cop out to pick Boston for that reason. So I'm gonna take a third cop out and say I think it is absolutely a coin flip at this point, because I think we have an overwhelming amount of data that Boston is the better basketball team. To Boy Green's point, 12 minutes leading through 96 minutes of basketball does not feel very sustainable. I think Boston, again, more than capable of winning 4 in a row. I would be surprised if Boston didn't come back and win Game 3. But, man, how can you not believe in the Knicks a little bit after seeing these 2 games? And I think it'll come down to, like, Boston at some point, and maybe this isn't like a crazy statement given that they have to win 4 out of 5, but, like, at some point, like, I think in 2 of these remaining, like, if it's 5 games left, like, it'll be close down the stretch, and Boston's going to have to out-execute the Knicks down the stretch. I think they're capable of doing it, but I think it's an open question of, like, whether they're there psychologically. I will say that the number one swing factor for me is the health of Kristaps Porzingis, right? Because we saw in the third quarter, like, when he came in,
he can make a difference.
He started getting put-back dunks. He hit that three off the, like, bailout Tatum pass. Like, that is the one guy I just don't think the Knicks have an answer to.
Well,
that is, like, yeah.
I was going to say, I love that if that's the factor that decides this series, I like the Knicks just that much more, Gavin, because I know this guy's history. He used to be a Knick. We know all about it.
It's fair. But, I mean, you look at last year in the finals, he swung the finals by playing Game 1 and being hot at the start of Game 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like Boston does not need 5 games of Kristaps Porzingis. They need maybe 3 quarters where he swings 3 quarters, and that could be enough for them to win this series. But if he's MIA, like he was in the first half, like he was last game, like I think the talent gap is close enough that the Knicks can absolutely win this series.
All right, Gavin, this continues. We'll definitely have you back again. Thanks for making a little time for us this morning. We appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Love talking to you guys. Thanks for having me.